pjnet.tv, 9 p.m. almost anyway, on the eastern coast of the United States. Our bumper is running, and we are recording, and we are streaming and in sync with multiple social media destinations. Our guest is standing by in the green room, and our guests are populating the chat room, waiting for things to get started. Let's begin counting down to Studio 8. Well, good evening and welcome to another week of pjnet.tv. Behold, the channel. Folks, if you are out there on social media, it could be YouTube, it could be Twitter, it could be Facebook, and you have encountered this and you stopped scrolling thinking, what is that? Well, we are so appreciative that you have joined with us. We hope that you enjoy our time together, where we provide a place for everyday Christians to share their walk with Christ. But however, if you want to watch this in the chat room, there's some people over there you probably haven't met that you would benefit by fellowshipping with. If you just take your browser to pjnet.tv, the first option is video and chat. So you can watch it and you can make some new friends, hopefully. We've made a lot of friends there over the years, lifetime friends. It's the sweetest fellowship on the internet, I promise. Okay, tonight we have something special. It's always special. Well, every night I say it's something great, you know. It's first-time guests are always a privilege, an honor, and, well, a responsibility, because you never know, because you haven't gotten to know most of them. And Gail Cartee appeared on the radar because she joined the vinewords.net team, and we're going to talk more about that. But let me bring Gail on board and say good evening. How are you doing, Gail?
Good. How are y'all?
I'm glad you're here, and she's been here on time. Her laptop is connected to the charger, so it's not going to go out, and hopefully everything will go smoothly. And Gail, before we talk about VineWords and all your writing stuff, I was looking over your bio, and I thought, well, what is this woman doing writing? It seems like most of her professional training and career-wise is in the discipline of education.
Well, I'm writing because I still use that as a venue to teach. Whenever I write devotions for my blog, I tend to have something on there that would teach children and teach families how to connect, usually a science theme, to their everyday life and their spiritual lives as well.
Now, in all of your, how many years did you spend in the teaching profession?
Well, about 30 years.
Is that all?
I retired last summer, and I think that was probably a good time to change over to something else.
Well, maybe if you'd have given it a little more time, you'd have gotten to like it, you know.
Oh, I loved it.
Well, if you did it 30 years, you either loved it or you're nuts or something. But now it seems like, according to what I was furnished, you are kind of focused on marriage and family. That's quite a leap from reading, writing, and arithmetic, isn't it?
Well, no, because most of my teaching experience was with preschoolers, and so that involves, having to get the parents on board. And really, any grade you teach, you need parents on board, and building that relationship with families and getting to know them as well as their children. It takes a family to help educate children. It's not just the teacher. So.
If you have been doing that 30 years, you've probably seen many changes. Many of them good, many of them, well, not so much. What is the biggest change that you have seen that disturbs you the most, and when did you first notice the landscape in the educational field changing?
Well, I think it's the disconnect with the parents and the education that had become so strict about um, making sure that the children were safe that we almost disconnected from the families, and it was just like teacher and children instead of teacher and families.
Would you, on a scale of 1 to 10, to what extent would you agree that teachers are being tasked with socializing their students when they are in fact not equipped to do so?
Right. Well, that's a hard question because I we are asked to do a lot of things, and then to be the parent and the teacher all at the same time is a little difficult, because children bring so much to the classroom, so many good things, but also they're bringing in their home baggage as well. And um, you actually need a degree in psychology, I think, to deal with some of it, if you don't have that parent interaction that we used to have a lot more of than we do now.
Gail, we all have a tendency to romanticize the past. The past was always the good old days and things were so much better back then. But, today we have all the technology and so much money is being poured into education. You would think that would be an exciting time to enter as a career teaching. So let's say that someone out there is watching and listening who is contemplating a career in education. You've been doing this 30 years. What advice would you give them?
Well, I think that they do need to know as much about technology as they can, but I think that they also need to have a hands-on connection. Um, Children need to be outside and involved with the creation itself, and you can't learn everything within four walls, but you can take that technology out and use it outside as well as inside, and make discoveries out there that will be a lifelong learning experience. But I would just say make sure that you know how to use everything. A hands-on experience is going, especially the younger children need a hands-on experience more than they need a technological experience.
I almost feel like it's an unfair question, but I'm curious, and I think others might be as well. A career that spans 30 years, there must be a lot of good memories. What are some that kind of stand out in your mind as you look back over your shoulder at that 30 years of your life that you gave serving the public in that way?
I think with little children, which is the age group that I taught the most, every day it's the light bulb experience. You can see them, their little faces light up, and whenever something connects, they finally understood something, and that happens so often with little children. So there's something every day that you can enjoy about teaching, and just watching them enjoy it. But I think just as fun things that happened over the 30 years, we don't get a lot of snow up here, and when we do, you just might as well call off school. But going out on the playground when it starts snowing during the middle of the day, and everybody with their tongue stuck out, is something that stands out in my memory.
Did you join them in that?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, pictures to prove it.
When I was in school, there were those lights on moments, and I had some teachers that were gifted with making learning interesting and fun. And I'll share a story of some creativity that one teacher used, because I was not the most attentive student. In about the fifth grade, I was obsessed with professional football and wanting to become a professional football player, or at least a good one. So I, of course, knew everything about every football player, every football team. I mean, I was taking in, but I wasn't particularly interested in geography or anything like that. So Because I was unattentive in one class, the teacher kept me in for recess and said, I want you to write down the city where every city that has a professional football team, I want you to write it on the chalkboard during recess for punishment. Well, I thought, well, that's easy. So, man, I wrote down all this stuff. And when recess was over, all the students came in. She put me at the front of the class and said, now tell them something about the city where that professional football team resides. I didn't know. She had tricked me into doing a geography lesson. Find it on the map, point to it. Yeah, okay. And but that kind of creativity, is that the exception, or is it more common than we think?
Well, I would like to say that that's more common than you think. But, I can only speak for myself, and I tried to make sure that that's that part of that hands-on learning. She was making you put your hands on it. She wasn't just lecturing you that, there was a professional team in New York City. She was making you find it. So that was a hands-on experience for you, and one that you knew how to handle. She wasn't asking you to find, where, I don't know, where the equator was. She was asking you to find something that you were interested in. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the key, is finding your children's interest. And there's a lot of differentiation in teaching now, is teaching each child from their point of view. What are their interests? And, every child has a gift. And finding that gift and that interest is gonna increase their ability to develop their gifts. So, just because one child's more mathematically inclined than another does not mean that the other doesn't have a gift, and they can use that gift to learn the math that will enhance their gift.
I hated school, basically. Didn't want to go, and looked forward to the day I would graduate. But it occurred to me several years later that school may end, but learning never ends.
That's right. I think that's the older we get, the more that we delve into learning. And whenever I was in school, a lot of teachers say, oh, I've wanted to be a teacher ever since I was a child, but I didn't. And I wanted to be a wife and mother. And so that's what I began my adult life as, just a wife and mother. But as I saw my children desire to learn to read, they were picking it up on their own. They'd go down the road and they could read the Kmart sign or the Pepsi sign, and pick it out in the newspaper. And I'm thinking, this child needs a little more. They're only 3 or 4 years old. So I began to delve into how to teach children how to read. And I thought, well, this is pretty cool. And so as they got older, my husband said, no, we're sending them to school. You can't homeschool. I thought, well, maybe I can go teach somebody else's child to read. So that's what I did. I went back to school and finished my education. And that was, teaching children to read was really my focus when I was in college and whenever I started teaching.
For someone who, I didn't mind going to school because there were social benefits, that I enjoyed. I didn't particularly enjoy class or learning per se as I was growing up. But as we grow older, I find something interesting. It seems like there comes a point of maturity in our lives that we begin to fully embrace learning. And one of the things that amazes me, that after we get out of school, we've been out for 20 years, we start going back to school, but it takes different forms. For example, I know adults who have it's either a nudge from the Holy Spirit or a vision or some reason they want to write a book, but they've never done that. They don't know anybody that's done that. So they go to one of these writing conference things. And I went to one as a guest. I was there to work. And my eyes got open to a whole new world. But adults are learning, not only embracing it, but they're paying for the privilege to go. And these conferences are big learning experiences, and you have some experience in conferences more than just a student.
Yes, and it's a lot of work to put together a conference, and I'm just a low person on the totem pole, but it takes that whole team to make it all work out and to provide something, a learning experience for everybody who comes. Takes a lot of thought and preparation, and I enjoy going to conferences and just learning too. That's where I came in contact with Vine Words, was through a conference.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because it's on my list to talk about. You're not a lifelong friend of Diane, so you bump into her at a conference. How did you meet, and what was your first impression? And did you have any idea where it was going to lead?
She and I actually met through mutual friends on Facebook, but we'd never actually sat down and had a conversation. And so in February, we were at a conference at the Cove in Asheville, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And we recognized each other and began to talk. And, it just seemed like that our spirits were meshing. And naturally, when two people have the Holy Spirit, then it witnesses to each other. And so we just talked and had a good conversation. And then the next week she called and asked if I was interested in doing some writing for Vine Words. And we've kind of been on the road since then.
Well, you're in for quite a ride. I first got involved with her and the Vine Words team late last year and have come to know many good people and good servants in the kingdom, and you're in very good company. We're getting near the end. I wanted to talk about something that you plan to do later. That would be publish a book.
Yes. I had written a little book and had put it out to several people and gotten those rejections that everybody gets. And I was doing a virtual conference with Kentucky Christian writers and had the opportunity to send it to one of the publishers who was at that conference. And so they accepted it last August. But with everything that's going on with COVID, it's not quite on the docket. I've got a contract. It's about messages from a little boy who has, it's actually a book for children who have lost a friend or a sibling. Most of the time, books about people passing away are usually grandparents. Mm-hmm. But children, lose friends from cancer or car wrecks or even school shootings. I mean, just all kinds of things happens to children. And they want to know, where's my friend and what's going on with my friend. Mm-hmm. So this book is going to have a message from a little boy who has passed away, and he's finding things playing in heaven like he would playing on earth, and asking Jesus to send those messages back to his sibling and his parents so that they know he's okay. Well, Jesus doesn't tell him he's going to send back the messages, but the next scene in the book is a member of his family who is noticing, hey, this is something that our son knew, or my brother knew about and enjoyed. And so it's given them some good memories. And the last scene in the book, he's asking the Lord to send a rainbow for his parents. And the Lord says, well, there has to be a storm before there's a rainbow. And he said, yes, but they've already been through the storm. And so the last part of the book is the parents and the little sister receiving a rainbow and talking about, God's promises to them.
Wow. I taught my daughter about mortality by getting her a dog when she was very little. That's pretty deep, Gail, and that's I am remiss. Okay, we're going to have to zip through this real quick. I forgot earlier. You sent me some pictures that mean something to you. This flower, quickly.
I like to garden, and so that's a daffodil from my flower bed.
All right. Well, we'll move on. What is this?
We also enjoy hiking. That is a picture from the Smokies, and I forgot exactly what location, but yes, I love going hiking.
All right. And we have here, you evidently garden a little bit too.
Yes, I'm an organic gardener, and I try to raise as much of our food as I possibly can.
And you have gone back and discovered Noah's Ark.
Yes, we enjoyed a trip to Noah's Ark and to the Creation Museum last summer, and hope to get to go again sometime. But it's quite the quite the show. Also raise chickens, so
A
and
basket of
that's my
eggs?
blue egg.
Oh,
Yeah,
blue eggs.
basket
Oh,
of blue eggs.
okay. And finally, you put this one in after you sent the others. What's so special about this?
I've always enjoyed watercolors, and from a child, I wanted to draw and to paint, and so that's something else that I've picked back up in the last year. It's painting.
Well, what a way to round out an exciting evening and an informative evening. Gail, thank you for sharing your story, and we look forward to seeing that book when it comes out. Thank you for taking your time and sharing with us tonight, and we hope to see you again sometime.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be with you tonight. I've enjoyed it.
Okay, folks, that was Gail Cartee, and that is the view from one of the many. Oh, by the way, my wife put some new blinds. Look, those are actual blinds on the window, as opposed to the door has the old paper accordions, But anyway, how nice. And the dog that's why she got them. The dog can sit right there and look out. And that means a lot to him. He gets to bark at the UPS man. Okay, well, folks, what an enjoyable evening. What a rich experience that she shared, Gail Cartee, with us. Before I leave, we got Casper coming up at the bottom of the hour, as we do every Monday evening. But before I leave, I would like to challenge you by asking yourself these two questions. Here's the first one. What is the boldest thing that you have ever done for Jesus Christ? The second question is even tougher. How long ago was that? Folks, it's a tough world out there. Thank God for people like Gail helping our young children cope not only with the world, but with the world hereafter. So I hope that none of us will be satisfied with our answer to either of those two questions.